So that's number one. And then of course our PEA, new PEA results for Cañariaco Norte. We're still working on drilling permits for Cañariaco Sur and Quebrada Verde. We'd like to be drilling those and seeing how much copper is there and if there's additional resources to add to the project. And then exploring in Canada on the Canyon Creek project.
Well, hello, welcome to Assay TV. Today I'm delighted to be joined once again by Joanne Freeze, who is the President and CEO of Candente Copper. Candente Copper are the 100% owners of the Cañariaco Project down in Peruvian Andes. They have 3 projects there, 1 more advanced and 2 at an earlier stage. Joanne, great to see you today. Last time we spoke, you talked extensively about your projects, and I would urge our viewers to go back and have a look at that video to get more details. But today I'd like to talk to you about a study you've been doing with Ausenco, rethinking somewhat the projects and seeing what all the options could be for developing the Norte project there. If you could just give us a little bit of background to sort of the rationale behind this conceptual desktop study you've been working on.
The last economic study was done in 2000 or completed 2011, and at that time it looked like the capex was estimated to be just over 1.6 billion, and it had very strong positive NPV and IRRs using 250 copper. Now, with time, we realized that we would like to understand if it could be built as a smaller project. I mean, at that time when that work was done, everybody else around us, our friends, were selling similar projects for $400 to $600 to $800 million, and we were in a hurry to prove that we were similar to those, and we didn't, stop and look at smaller projects. With time, as I said, we've realized we should do that, and then with the price of copper increasing, which makes it easier to have potentially start with a smaller project, we decided to engage Ausenco to do that. But in addition, we wanted to look at some other aspects of the project and see if we could improve anything, especially from ESG standpoint. And so one of the first things we looked at was the roaster. And I felt if we could mitigate the need for the roaster, that would be a big cost. It would also be simpler operation, simpler in permitting, and very good for ESG. The roaster that was recommended, Autotech roaster, works very well. Codelco's operating some in Chile. Boliden's used the technology themselves at smelters, so that's not a concern. And the arsenic comes out as scorodite, which is an inert mineral. But having said that, cut the cost, cut the extra operation, and see what we could do. So because we started looking at a smaller startup, and we used 40,000, 50,000, and 60,000 ton per day as throughputs, we were able to take a better look at the deposit. Ausenco did a geometallurgical model, and what they discovered is that the arsenic is not even throughout the deposit, and in addition, it reports to the con differently. So each rock type has a different grade of copper and level of arsenic, and each rock type, actually the copper and the arsenic within that reports to the con differently. So when you put all that together and then the change in penalty costs, they created an NSR model. And then when you start at a smaller throughput rate, you can think about two shovels in the pit and blending. And that was the idea, and that's what they did. And so we know now that we don't need the roaster, which is fantastic. It'll save money and save, as I say, it'll be more functional, easier functionality. Then the next thing is that we started looking at is, what if we start smaller? So the CapEx, and I'll say this, if we could get a CapEx under $1 billion, and then ramp up to maybe not the 95,000 ton per day that was contemplated in 2011, but something near there, then you'd still have a very good economics of your project long term. You wouldn't always have a small operation per se. And so we looked at that, and that's looking very positive also. And the idea being that if your CapEx is less than $1 billion initially, and I've been told recently that Peruvian pension funds, for example, could be very interested in attractive debt financing for half of that. And then you would do your expansion with cash flow. So you're not looking for that big capex. So what that does is really open the playing field for the number of people that could build this project.
Absolutely, widens your options considerably. So what are the next stages for the project?
Well, the next step is to launch into a PEA. So we're requesting proposals from a few different engineering firms right now, and once we decide who to move forward with, then we launch into that. And we're hoping it would be 3 to 4 months to complete that. And then we'd have new NPVs, new IRR, and a whole new idea of it's still flotation. There's still a lot of aspects of the project that are exactly as they were before. It's not like we've changed everything, but I just think it's an improved opportunity. Now, having said that, a group like Fortescue might rather just start big right away. We might convince them due to permitting and other reasons to start small, but that's up to them. I mean, somebody who's got the capacity for a 1.5 or a 2 or a 2.5 billion capex, maybe they just rather start big, but that's up to them. And we just wanted to show the opportunity to investors and other people out there looking for copper projects.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the important aspects of this study is showing improved ESG. Do you want to delve into that a little bit more?
Absolutely. As I said, the roaster's tried and true technology, and it does, the arsenic comes out in an inert mineral. Having said that, roasters scare people in it, and so just by not having a roaster, I think is definitely an improvement. The other thing we're looking at is dry stack tailings. We're not sure yet if we can do that, but we believe there's an opportunity for that. So that's the other thing. Now, electricity, your power source is something, but Peru is already using hydropower, so that's pretty positive on the ESG standpoint. And then we, of course, would look at everything the rest of the world's doing and just minimizing the use of diesel. But that's another story. That's not part of this study right now.
Absolutely, a little further down the track. I wanted to also talk today a little bit about this copper project that you've acquired up in Canada, in British Columbia. Tell us what you've got there.
Yeah, thank you. And the reason we've gone there is because we always like geopolitical diversification, and the history of the company. We have had projects, in different parts of the world. We just got very focused in Peru at that lately, the last few years. But a geologist I know over time has introduced to me an opportunity, and I looked at it for quite a while and negotiated, I would say, a very, very positive, very favorable deal for us, but also favorable for him because he likes our shares. So he'll win whether it's Cañariaco or his project. But what it is it's in a prolific belt of porphyry coppers in Canada. It's at the northern end of the Quinellia, what's called the Quinellia terrain. And people have been looking at it since the 70s, and this is very typical of many, same for Cañariaco. Norandas and major companies were out there prospecting and finding copper and gold and moly in soils. In this case, we have a lot of copper and a lot of moly. Nobody actually assayed for gold yet. But in any case, so it was very indicative of a porphyry. But of course, in the 70s and even into the 90s, people wanted pretty high grades of copper early on to know that it would make it. Now we have up to 1.5% copper in outcrop so far. There is glacial till on the property, so there's not a lot of exposure. So we don't know, we can't say too much about the geology. We know there's intrusive rocks that are favorable for porphyries, and similar to many other deposits, not just in BC, but in the world. But based on the very large soil anomaly, very strong copper and moly, based on geophysical signature, which indicate large mineralized bodies, and the mineralization, which is style, it's lots of stockwork, very typical of porphyries. That's a very, very exciting prospect. And so it's great to have something else to be exploring on, especially when my attitude right now is copper is just going through the roof long term. We need it all over the world. We need it for everything we want to do, and this whole revolution of EV and such. And so why should we not be acquiring as much copper as we can? and especially
Absolutely. And what would be your next stages for that, next steps for that project? Because as you mentioned, there's outcrop, which people can go and chip away at and do some sort of stream sediment studies and things like that. But there hasn't been any drilling on the project yet.
No, that's correct. So it needs to be drilled, but we need to do other groundwork before. I mean, we could go out and drill some of the geophysical targets right now, but I'd rather do our own work first. One thing that I understand is that there's spectral imaging that comes from satellites, and we use that a lot in Peru, where the rocks are very exposed. And I had not realized until very recently that that has also been used in BC in the gold and the porphyry alteration zones. They can see through the glacial till. And so we're going to take a look at that. We're going to do just your basic prospecting and just boots on the ground, uncovering as much as we can of the rocks to find out what kind of alterations and make sure it is a porphyry style or whatever it is that we could be interested in. But as I say, a lot of work to do, but on the other hand, there's been a lot of work already, over $1 million spent on it, and some very positive indications.
Absolutely. So look forward to seeing how that progresses as things go on. And also, I guess as a geologist, you'll be happy to get out there into the woods and be looking around a bit, because I guess with the situation at the moment, it's quite hard to get down to Peru.
That's correct. And to be honest, Cañariaco isn't. There's still some exploration to be done, but I've really enjoyed my last several years of getting into the engineering, and as I say that as a geologist, learning about the engineering and economic studies and such. But yes, absolutely, I am really fired up, and that's what gets me going in the morning, is making discoveries. Yeah.
Excellent. So in terms of sort of key sort of milestones investors should be looking out for over the coming months, what are the sort of key things we should be looking for?
Well, in Peru, it's calming down after the new government is in. They've been elected, but as we know, they haven't named them yet. And just everybody finding out exactly what they're going to do. And I understand things are getting much more moderate. They're pretty sure Castillo is going to be the president, and that he's building up a team. Then working with Congress, keeping the same president of the central bank reserve, and things are stabilizing there, I would say. They need some good changes, but things look like they're stabilizing. So that's number one. And then, of course, our new PEA results for Cañariaco Norte. We're still working on drilling permits for Cañariaco Sur and Quebrada Verde. We'd like to be drilling those and seeing how much copper is there and if there's additional resources to add to the project. And then exploring in Canada on the Canyon Creek project. We also have two other porphyries in Peru. One is joint ventured to a junior, and they're spending money and looking for drilling permits right now. And then we have another porphyry in southern Peru that we had a partner on at one point, and we're in discussions and to have a partner on that one as well. So lots in them coming up.
Fantastic. Lots of news flow on the way. But thank you very much, Joanne, there for that update on the project, and best of luck for the year ahead.
Thank you very much. And you also, best of luck.